SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
I hear everything.
Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21. I want you to believe me, baby. I have lots of fun. I'm a man.
You got me, Lance?
Yes, you're on, sir.
There we go. Good morning. Welcome in. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk Mississippi. Thanks so much for joining us. Glad to have you along for the ride. It is Monday morning. Today is the 29th of June, and we are off and rolling. Glad to have you along. Mornings is brought to you by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Love to hear from you this morning. You can join us on the C Spire text line at 601-879-4395. Again, 601-879-4395. Don't forget, that is the best way for us to connect. And thanks for joining us. Hope you had a great weekend as we roll into Independence Day week. We celebrate our 250th birthday as a nation this week. It really is pretty incredible stuff. Lance, good morning to you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing great. How's it going? You connected up good this morning, and sorry about the little rough start. A little popping out of the gate, but we'll be good to go. We lost audio somehow. There we go.
So, are we good now?
Yeah, we are. Had to flip over to another connection.
There we go. Now we're all set. All right. Planes, trains, and automobiles early in the morning. How was your weekend?
Oh, it was great. Got a lot of yard work done. You know, the good old-fashioned burn up a little bit, get some sweating in, and none of the rain, thank goodness. So I'd planted a bunch of grass about 2 weeks ago, some Bermuda. It's coming up nice. And, buddy, it was hot around here, though. I don't know about where you are.
It is hot in Florida this week as well, and looks like it's going to. Man, the eastern half of the United States is going to get crushed with heat this week, it looks like. And it's going to be summertime in Mississippi. Go figure. Yeah. Now that we are officially into summer, it's going to be hot. Again, today is the 29th of June, and we are thrilled to be with you. South Haven, Northwest Mississippi, topping out at 97 degrees tonight. The overnight low only going to be around 77. Mostly sunny, a few clouds, hot and humid with a possible extreme heat watch in effect today. Low chance of precipitation. Kosciuszko, 97 degrees for your high today. Sunny to mostly clear. Basically a 0% chance of rain today in Kosciuszko. In Ellisville, Mississippi, you're going to be 1 degree cooler, 96 degrees for your high, mostly clear, sunny, hot, humid, and about the same on the coast. Gulf Coast area, Gulfport in particular, 94 degrees today for your high. So just a touch cooler than maybe farther north in the state, but humidity is going to be up there. Mostly sunny, hot, and humid. Might have an isolated or a scattered thunderstorm mixed in late in the afternoon in Gulfport. But generally speaking, across the state, hot, humid, heat indices. The heat index is going to exceed 100 for most of the state of Mississippi today. And that means heat advisories are going to be in effect or could be in effect all across the state. So be careful. We are into that time of year where we say, hey, drink a little bit of extra water. You don't have to be outside in the heat of the day. Don't be. Find that air condition, that cool spot, and make sure you take care of yourself and your family and your pets. Make sure the water bowl is full for the dogs. I'm not going to say this name right, but it was such a cool name. I thought we should include it. Antoine de Saint-Exupéry, born on this day in 1900. Is that close? You think that's close?
I'm no Frenchman, but I like the way you went with it. Yeah, pronunciation on the last name would be the question mark, right? That was wrong.
Exupéry?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Never seen one like that.
French writer, poet, and a pioneering aviator, best known for authoring the beloved classic The Little Prince. He disappeared during a World War II reconnaissance flight and was never found, I guess. So, tough way to go. William James Mayo was born on this day in 1861, the American physician and surgeon who co-founded the Mayo Clinic in Rochester, New Jersey, alongside his brother and his father. That is, of course, one of the leading medical institutions in the United States. So they've done all kinds of crazy good work at Mayo Clinic. Multiple locations for Mayo Clinic now, but that original one in Rochester, Minnesota. How about Slim Pickens, born on this day in 1919, the American actor and rodeo performer who was iconic in Westerns and known for his memorable role as Major T.J. King Kong in Dr. Strangelove. Is that your guy?
That's good stuff there.
Slim one of your guys?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm just a fan of the theater, the movie, all the good stuff. You know, I mean, I'll sit down and watch anything, especially the old stuff. I love the old, even some black and whites. Do you ever get into the old movies and things like that? Or are you more of a theater and more polished movie theaters and such?
I almost neither. I don't watch much of the old stuff. Believe it or not, Lance, I don't watch a lot of television. I know that's crazy to think. If our TV is on, it's either a ball game or news.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
now,
I'm
Jay
more of
and
a
the kids will sit
podcast.
down and they'll watch a movie or yeah.
I'm a podcast, but I love Dr. Strangelove. That is a great movie. It is crazy. Unbelievable set of actors in there, and Slim Pickens definitely being part of that crew. But if you've never seen Dr. Strangelove, it's one you got to watch.
Yeah. Nicole Scherzinger was born in 1978, the singer, actress, and dancer. She was the lead vocalist of the Pussycat Dolls and a successful solo artist, and also one of the judges on The Masked Singer. Colin Jost, born on this day in 1982, the American comedian, writer, and actor, longtime host on Saturday Night Live. He is one of the Weekend Update co-anchors on Saturday Night Live, also known for his stand-up comedy and, I don't know, maybe most famously for being married to Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, you lead
not
with
at the top of his resume. Should be.
Yeah, if you're Colin Jost, you lead with that going into the room, right?
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Yeah, Saturday Night. Scarlett Johansson and Saturday Night Live. But just thinking out loud there. Ian Pace was born on this day in 1948, the English drummer and founding member of the rock band Deep Purple, known for his powerful playing on classics like Smoke on the Water. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Especially the intro. Bum, 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 bum.
Can't get
all
that
right,
one
things that
confused with
happened on
others.
Wait, do I not have that right? Is that
No,
a
I said you
different
cannot.
song?
I said that one's hard to get confused with all the others.
Oh.
Yeah, it's so iconic.
Oh, yeah. It is absolutely a standalone. This day in history, 1613, the original Globe Theatre in London burned down during a performance of Shakespeare's Henry VIII. How did that happen? Well,
Whoopsie.
as part of the show, they fired a cannon off and ignited the thatched roof on the Globe, and it was the end of that.
Yeah, that was not a smart move.
Who could have thought?
The whole thing was wood.
Who could have thought? Yeah, if we fire off this cannon, what's going to happen? 1767, one of the things that led toward the American Revolution, the British Parliament passes the Townshend Revenue Act, imposing taxes on imports like tea and glass and paper in the American colonies. We did not appreciate that very much. It was part of the whole taxation without representation deal. And that set us down a road where war was imminent, was on the way. In 1927, U.S. Army aviators Lester Maitland and Albert Hegenberger completed the first successful trans-Pacific flight. They went from California to Hawaii. Just getting started with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. We're back right after this.
From the Venable
Morning, Mississippi. You're starting your day off right.
Welcome to
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Won't you come to your love alone? Baby, tell me your troubles down everything inside and out. Love strange, so real in the dark. Think of the tender things.
How about now, Lance? Are we better?
We're good
Get
now.
us going
Yeah.
again?
Yeah, we're good to go, sir.
All right, I'm just going to give you a peek behind the curtain. I'm trying to get this figured out, and the truth of the matter is, you know that we are on the road all the time. I'm on the road a lot, and I have all of this equipment, same stuff that we use at home. And last night I was setting everything up out here on the porch to make sure that I was good to go and everything was good. And Lance, I started unpacking, and we use what we call a Comrex I'm not telling you that. I'm telling our listeners that. That's the way that we kind of communicate back to the station. Then we've got our video feed as well. I didn't bring the power cord. And so something, there we go. I don't know.
It happens, man.
So we're going to get that resolved. It was a colossal screw up on my part, but just being completely honest with you, and hopefully we can get that figured out. I thought I was talking. I wasn't.
You were.
Apparently.
You were talking. It just wasn't coming out.
Pele. All right, so Pele in 1958, playing for Brazil, scored 2 goals in the World Cup final. And that was kind of his debut, just dazzled the entire world. Did you ever try a bicycle kick when you were a kid? You know what I'm talking about when I say bicycle kick?
Oh, yeah, I tried it, but I never could pull it off.
Yeah, it was like something where you wanted to try it on the diving board going into the water as opposed to yeah, the trampoline was the way to do it. That ground didn't have a whole lot of give. 1967, after the Six-Day War, Israel removed barricades and officially reunified Jerusalem's control. In 1972, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in Furman versus Georgia that the death penalty is unconstitutional, or at least it was as it was applied in that particular case, and they temporarily did executions nationwide. And then finally, 19 years ago today, the world changed forever when in 2007, Steve Jobs and a little fruit company named Apple released the iPhone. 19 years ago today. And the messages on Lance's phone are still green.
They are.
All this time later.
Yeah, I feel like I've invested into
Snowmobile.
No,
You've invested in what?
I said I've invested into the success of the Korean economy. So, I kind of feel ingratiated, embedded into it now.
Yeah. That's so very kind of you. It's so convenient for all of us. We appreciate it so very much.
You got it.
All right, let's get to some news headlines. Tough one out of Jackson over the weekend. The Jackson Police Department said 3 people, including a toddler, were shot and killed at a home on Queen Alexandria Lane on Saturday night. The victims' ages were 30, 26, and 2 years old. Their identities have been withheld for now. No arrests at this time have been made, though authorities have recovered a vehicle believed to have belonged to one of the victims that was allegedly stolen at the crime scene. As law enforcement officials in the city of Jackson investigate the triple homicide, Mayor John Horn at a press conference said that he will work with officials to curb what he believes to be a troubling trend of gun violence in our state's capital. He said this: "Our city is hurting. In recent days, we have seen a troubling rise in gun-related violence, shootings, and senseless loss of life. No family should have to face the pain of losing a loved one to violence. Violence against the innocent is intolerable, and as your mayor, I will not accept this as a norm for our community." Saturday's incident marked the 39th, 40th, and 41st homicides in Jackson so far in 2026, which means Jackson is pacing ahead of where it was a year ago with 75 homicides. The 2025 figure marked a 32% decrease. That was something that we celebrated as it happened a year ago. 32% decrease from 2024. 2024 was the first time that homicides in Jackson had been under 100 since 2019. Horn is consulting with new police chief Rochelle Brackney and the city's public safety team to configure a plan to bring law enforcement officials, community leaders, ministers, mental health professionals, and more, those most impacted by gun violence, to the table to discuss a plan to try to put a halt to the killing. That is rough news, especially with the 2-year-old killed over the weekend. We've heard some and read some about screwworm, cases of the flesh-eating New World screwworm are rising nationwide, though at this point they are limited to just 2 states. Mississippi, good news so far, is not one of those 2 states. New Mexico has had 1 case. There have been 19 cases of screwworm in Texas. It does, however, still pose a threat to the food supply in Mississippi. Andy Gibson, our state ag commissioner, said it's only an issue, though, for animal safety, not for food safety. Jerome Goddard works with the Mississippi State Extension Department. He's a professor of medical entomology there. He said screwworm belongs to the blowfly family. Typically, blowflies infest dead animals, but in this case, they infect living things. Goddard said the problem with this particular species of blowfly is that it lays its eggs on living animals, and the larvae burrow into the living flesh of cattle and other livestock, causing serious damage and sometimes death to the animal. Now, the animal that is most likely and most commonly affected beyond cattle are dogs. And so people are encouraged to keep an eye out for your dogs. Make sure that you see these. They look kind of like horseflies, at least in size, got a little bit of a yellow tint to them. Screwworms were actually around in the late 60s and early 70s. They were able to completely eradicate them. Interestingly, the eradication method that they used was the male sterility release, which if you were with us a couple of months ago, you remember, who was it? Was it Bezos or was it Elon Musk? One of the really rich guys. Yeah, I can't remember which.
I can't remember.
Anyway,
it was Bezos,
one of those,
Gates, or Musk, one or the other.
Yeah. They wanted to get rid of mosquitoes that we had an issue with, I think it was. And they were let's see. Bill Gates is ticks, and we don't trust him with that.
Mm-hmm. Don't trust him with your dog.
Especially with the Lone Star ticks. Yeah. So, but it worked. And it completely eradicated them, but they have made a comeback. Maybe that means they weren't completely eradicated. There was an outbreak in 2016 in the Florida Keys. Farmers with livestock should be aware of the symptoms in animals infested with screwworms, but pet owners also should check their animals and just be careful on that. Attorney General Lynn Fitch announced that anti-human trafficking initiative Operation Stark Reality was a success. It was carried out on June 25th in Starkville, led to 3 adult victims and 1 child being rescued from human traffickers, as well as an arrest as part of Fitch's ongoing mission to crack down on human trafficking in Mississippi. Her operation has resulted in 205 arrests and nearly 400 victims who have been rescued from human trafficking. It was a joint effort by 6 local and national law enforcement agencies, including the FBI and the Starkville Police Department. In addition, Transformation Garden and the Mississippi Coalition Against Human Trafficking provided treatment and help to those victims who were recovered in Starkville. Those are some of your news headlines. Got a couple more. We've got a sports update coming up for you as well. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the to know what's being said in the halls of the Capitol? You're in the right place. Mornings with Richard Cross continues on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Richard on the radio, praying for another black domino. Oh, Lord, you gotta help me through.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross on this Monday morning, June 29th. America 250 this week. Been a big countdown to it. Lots going on. A huge, by the way, Donald Trump says the biggest ever fireworks show and celebration happening in Washington, D.C. coming up this weekend. And I'm interested to see what it looks like. I like fireworks. Most of you like fireworks. If it's going to be the greatest and biggest fireworks show ever, then it's probably worth tuning in. One more news headline for you, and this one's I think it's baffling to me, but maybe it shouldn't be. Maybe it's just how the criminal justice system works. 2 months after a federal judge approved a motion to delay the trial of Beth Israel Congregation arson suspect Stephen Spencer Pittman, the defendant's legal team says it's going to need more time than they were offered. Pittman's public defender, attorney Michael Scott, requested a further delay in court proceedings in a Wednesday filing. The defendant was originally set to stand trial in April, before the date was moved by Judge Henry Wingate to August 3rd. But now Pittman is seeking additional time to consult with his attorney before appearing before a jury. The filing read this way. The defendant, Stephen Spencer Pittman, requests that the trial date scheduled for August 3rd, 2026 be continued on the grounds that defense counsel needs further time to meet with the defendant and investigate the alleged charges. You remember that Pittman, who is a Madison native, is accused of burning the Jackson Synagogue back in January. The U.S. Department of Justice initially charged him with arson, later elevating the charge to include a civil rights offense. Pittman is also facing the charge of first-degree arson with a hate crime enhancement on the state level. The defendant has pleaded not guilty to all charges. If convicted on federal law, he could face up to 60 years in prison. He is a graduate of St. Joseph Catholic School in Madison, was playing baseball at Coahoma Community College. Here's the crazy part about all of this. He confessed to breaking into Beth Israel, dousing areas of the synagogue with gasoline, and setting fire to the place of worship, according to the FBI. The crime was captured on video. At some point, does Henry Wingate say, yeah, like I get the continuance, and certainly clients need time to visit with their legal counsel, but we're going to go ahead and move forward with this. There will be no more extension granted. We hear all the time about, hey, they're going to get it into the justice system and things will be dragged out and dragged out and dragged out. But I suppose in like a legal timeline, this is not that long, but feels pretty, I don't know. When you've got a confession by the defendant and video evidence, what do you guys need to talk about? Like, we're still trying to figure out how to defend this thing? I don't know. Those are your news headlines this morning. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. Thank you for joining us. It's time for your morning sports update. Brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort is your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. Join them online at pearlriverresort.com or join them in person, whether it's at the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club, maybe to get a great meal at Philip M's or Mama and M, or you just want to hit the slots. They've got you covered at Pearl River Resort. Scotty Scheffler yesterday on the 18th hole in near complete darkness drained an 8-foot par putt and was pretty fired up, forcing a Monday playoff with Victor Hovland. Final round was stopped for an hour and 23 minutes because of rain and storms that moved through Connecticut at TPC River Highlands. Officials deemed there was not enough daylight for them to start the playoff. Lance, you asked me if I ever watched movies earlier. One of my favorites, have you seen The Legend of Bagger Vance?
About 50 times, yes, sir.
I mean, one of, in my estimations, the great scenes in that movie is when it gets dark and they get all the people to pull their trucks and their cars up along the edge around the green, and they turn the lights on, and you got the old man that goes, "Play will continue." I love that scene. I wanted that so badly in Connecticut. Just get all these TV towers and grandstands out of the way. Let's get some headlights and let's keep playing golf. But instead, they're going to start this morning, 8 o'clock Central Time. It's 9 o'clock local time. It's the first time that a PGA Tour event has gone to an extra day since the Players' Championship last year. Scotty Scheffler and Victor Hovland each had birdie chances on the 18th hole. Scheffler had a 30-foot putt that he ran by about 8 feet. Hovland's 25-foot birdie attempt just barely missed. He was oh so close, tapped it in, shot 69, and they're tied at 21 under par. That was one shot ahead of Colin Morikawa, who for a brief amount of time was tied for the lead in the event, but it did not hold up. Manning Passing Academy, the 30th edition of that event in Hammond, Louisiana, has wrapped up for another year. Ole Miss quarterback Trinidad Chambliss was one of the players that was there and had some interesting things to say when talking with the media. On Friday, he was asked about some of the comments that Lane Kiffin made in that Vanity Fair story a month or so ago. Chambliss disagreed with the assertions of his former head coach, Lane Kiffin. He said, "Me personally, I don't agree. I don't think what he said was truthful. The Oxford community is nothing but love, and they care about their people no matter what they look like. Brown, black, purple, yellow, you know what I mean? Kiffin, this was the funniest thing. So this was an AP story. Lance, I'm just going to read this to you exactly as it is written, as if there was any question here. Kiffin, who is white, coached at Ole Miss from 2020 to 2025. I guess you're just drawing a distinction about what Lane Kiffin said about race and color of the skin of his quarterback. Anyway, he oversaw Ole Miss's 11-1 regular season, left before the college football playoff to go coach at LSU, said he still wanted to coach. Ole Miss said, no, that's not going to work out. Kiffin said about all of this, and you may remember the quote from the story, "Hey, Coach, we really like you, but my grandparents aren't letting me move to Oxford, Mississippi. That doesn't come up when you say Baton Rouge, Louisiana," Kiffin said in the quote. Chambliss, participating again in the Manning Passing Academy as a counselor, said that he still thinks highly of Kiffin. He'll always appreciate the opportunity that he had to come to Ole Miss because of Lane Kiffin and doesn't harbor any ill will. He just disagrees. People in Mississippi and Oxford showed me nothing but love. One thing I can really take away from my visit, and the reason why I did commit to Ole Miss, is I asked my family what they genuinely thought about the visit, what they thought about the people, if they trusted what they were actually saying, if they're going to be true to their word. And his family said, I feel like this is the right place. He went on to say that his mother is super religious. She had a good feeling about it. He said they prayed on it as a family. That was the main thing. So I felt like Oxford is home, and it is a great place. I suppose once we get past September 19th, this is a story that will eventually go away. It does not appear to be hampering Ole Miss's efforts on the recruiting trail. Pete Golding, leading that Ole Miss staff together, they are putting a pretty impressive 2027 recruiting class together. Long way to go until National Signing Day. But seems like everything is working out okay. And Lane Kiffin, I don't know if you have noticed this or not, he has been a little quiet. It appears as if he was put into Twitter timeout by his bosses after the dust up from a few weeks ago. 3 games today happening in the World Cup as we are now into the knockout round, the round of 32 teams. Brazil and Japan will play in Houston, Texas today at noon. At 3:30 this afternoon, Germany and Paraguay, or Paraguay if you prefer, will play in Foxborough, so right outside of Boston. And then tonight in Guadalupe, Mexico, the Netherlands and Morocco will play. All right, so ticket costs. There's been a lot of talk about just how expensive tickets are for the World Cup and the fact that FIFA has priced a lot of fans out as this has gone along. Get in the door price today in Houston for the Brazil-Japan match, $743. Cost you $501 to get in Germany and Paraguay. Looking ahead to Wednesday, that's when the United States plays. United States playing Bosnia-Herzegovina at Levi's Stadium. Well, I think they're calling it Santa Clara Stadium. They took all the corporate names off of it. The get in the door price, not good seats, just the get in the door price for U.S. and Bosnia on Wednesday night, $1,598. $1,600 if you want to watch the national team play against Bosnia on Wednesday night. That's your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort, online at pearlriverresort.com. Pearl River Resort, your home for family fun, casino thrills, and live entertainment. Got your Mississippi Lottery update coming up next alongside Lance Tolbert. I'm Richard Cross. You might need to hit that Powerball if you're going to go watch the World Cup. We're back with you right after this.
From the Venable Glass.
Mississippi. Side track on Mississippi politics. Yeah! Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
everybody. Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross. It's time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery online at mslottery.com. Be sure to download the Mississippi Lottery app. I feel like we've been telling you for, 2 or 3 months now that the Lotto America jackpot keeps growing, and it keeps growing. $30.9 million for tonight's drawing. The estimated cash value now over $14 million. It is the third largest jackpot in Lotto America history. Powerball, the jackpot for tonight, up to $360 million after nobody won that on Saturday night. $163,800,000 is the estimated cash value for that. Mega Millions, that drawing tomorrow night, and it is now over $500 million. $511 million is the total jackpot with an estimated cash value of $231 million. I was an investor in that on Friday, Lance.
You bit the bullet, huh?
And it was time. Pot got right.
Yeah.
And once the pot's right, you gotta jump in there and be part of it. So it did not shake out in my favor, but it didn't shake out in anybody else's favor either. And so we all live to play another day. Mississippi Lottery's claims office paid out a little over $1.5 million last week, while lottery retailers across the state paid out $4,399,795. That is your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery. JT Mitchell is out today, had a prior commitment, and so we will visit with Caleb Sailors in the 8 o'clock hour of the show today from the SuperTalk Mississippi news team. Also going to talk with Skip Scaggs from the Mississippi Automobile Manufacturers Association in the 7 o'clock hour. Looking forward to that. I sat down over the weekend and made some notes. And we can call it the Neshoba County Fair Roundup. We can call it rumors and such. We call it whatever you want to call it. But just things that we heard in the speeches, things that we learned, maybe the slightest, little bittiest touch of a controversy, a barb or two thrown, some rumor mill activity and more. We'll do that in the 8 o'clock hour this morning. As I was, you go through it all in real time. You're consuming lots of information and talking to lots of people. But once you get back home, if you kind of go back and take stock of the conversations you had, you're like, oh, that was more interesting than I thought in real time. We're giving that a little bit more thought. So we'll talk about some of the things that were going on at the Neshoba County Fair. Let's check in this morning on the C Spire text line. 601-879-4395, as he regularly is. Jerry in Pontotoc says it is he was one of our first to check in, said it's a beautiful morning in the great state of Mississippi. Toasty, but sun is out and gorgeous. Good morning, guys. Stay cool and hydrated. That is from Jonathan. Jonathan, always good to hear from you. We were talking old television shows and movies briefly earlier. How about this from Stephen Kasuth? He says, took me a couple of years, but I have seen all 635 episodes and the 4 movies of Gunsmoke. Just finished it this weekend.
Yeah, you should get, like, when you buy all the Blanton's bottles, and you get that piece of the barrel where you can put all the little – you need something like that for if you've seen all episodes of Gunsmoke, 635. Come on, man. I know I've watched probably half that day.
Yeah.
That's an accomplishment.
You think you've watched 315 different episodes of Gunsmoke?
Oh, of course. I mean, I grew up with it. It was every night. Any night it came on, we sat up and watched it, and then bedtime was after that. So, I mean, I can assure you it was years of logging. I don't know which ones they were. Going back and trying to figure that out would be difficult. It's kind of like the old Star Trek, I don't know how many I watched with my dad. Hundreds.
But a bunch.
Yeah, with old James
T.
Kirk.
Of them.
Shatner and James T. Kirk, man. That was the good stuff.
Knew it was one of the rich guys, couldn't remember which. It was Sergey Brin, the guys at Google that we were talking about a couple of weeks ago that wanted to release the sterile mosquitoes to combat the mosquito issue. Thomas checks in. He says, "Morning, fellas. Good to be back from the beach and getting back into the routine." I will be honest with you. I did have a thought at one point last week. Actually, I had two thoughts. One, I was like, the text line's not as active as it normally is. And then the two was, wait, where's Thomas? We haven't heard from him. Did we make Thomas mad? Nah, he was just at the beach. You think Thomas is one of those guys that wears like cargo shorts and black socks with sandals while he's on the beach?
No, man. I wouldn't say so.
You think he cuts loose?
Yeah, he cuts loose, man. Thomas is a good guy. I don't think the black. I've never met a Speedo person in my life. I don't think so. I'm not going to go there. That's bold. That's bold moves there.
You could be a Speedo guy.
Oh, yeah, I could pull it off.
You could be a Speedo guy. Yeah. Nathan says, "Morning, fellas. Happy to have you on this morning. I do have an extra T-shirt to change into just in case." Yeah, you might need that at some point along the way. Thomas says, "Mad? Me? Feelings are for chumps, comrade." 7 o'clock hour on the way, right after the news. We're back with you. It's Mornings with Richard Cross.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
Keeping Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Now that I'm starting to learn, I feel I'm growing old. 'Cause yesterday's got nothing for me. Pictures that I'll always see. Time just fades the pages in my
Monday morning, June 29th, 2026. Thanks for joining us on Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Appreciate you being part of the conversation. Mornings is presented every day by Community Bank. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic. It's earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you may have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they are part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit in person or online at communitybank.net. The C Spire text line is open to you this morning, 601-879-4395. Love for you to jump in and join the conversation. The one plan from C Spire is here. Fiber, home, internet, and wireless. It's only $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience, zero compromises. That is how they are rolling at C Spire. Online, cspire.com. C Spire, customer inspired. I feel like we need a Days of Our Lives theme, like sands through the hourglass. These are the days of our lives in Iran. Or maybe we need the theme from Bill Murray's Groundhog Day, because it just feels like the same thing over and over and over.
What about the circus
There's
music?
more fighting over the weekend. Yeah, that's the like just a clown show, it feels like. So you had the agreement 2 weeks ago, and then the talks began, and the 60-day clock to a full ceasefire began. So what do we have over the weekend? I think that I have some understanding and some comprehension issues. You see, what I understand it, the way I comprehend it,
Then we got a little froze up here. There we go.
ceasefire means
We have frozen up, folks. Give it just a second. We'll be back with you in just
It's
a
the
minute.
Islamic Republic. And there we go. We good?
Good to go now.
Did we lose audio and video?
Yeah, it just froze up on us. Yeah.
Sorry, not sure what happened. All right. What I was saying before that happened, Lance, I suppose I have a comprehension issue.
That's where we lost you right there, yeah.
In that, yeah. So if you and I were, we were throwing paper airplanes at each other. I was sitting on one side of the table and you were sitting on the other side of the table. We were just whizzing them back and forth at each other. And it got to the point where it was annoying both of us. And we said, we are going to have a paper airplane ceasefire. Well, to me, that would mean that we no longer are throwing paper airplanes at each other. We have both agreed to stop that particular activity. But then when you kind of look the other way and I whiz one that plants and sticks right in your ear, well, I feel like I have re-engaged in hostilities. So we're calling it a ceasefire with Iran, and yet both sides, the United States and the Iranians, are continuing to engage in activities. Iran launched drone strikes and missile attacks over the weekend at Bahrain and Kuwait, because those are countries that house U.S. military. Those are new following U.S. airstrikes against the Islamic Republic over the weekend. But the U.S. airstrikes on strategic targets were in response to Iran shooting a warship that they weren't supposed to shoot, or a ship that was in the Strait of Hormuz. Efforts to reopen the strait without Iranian oversight has sparked days of crossfire, which is to say not a ceasefire. A multinational maritime body overseen by the United States Navy said on Saturday that it would expand a route near Oman for inbound and outbound traffic. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi said yesterday, reiterated his claim that Tehran must govern the Strait of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. And that's the strait that once carried 1/5 of the world's supply through it on a daily basis. He said any attempt to establish new or separate arrangements for those currently being carried out by the Islamic Republic of Iran will only lead to further complications, delaying the reopening of the strait and increasing the level of tension. Pakistan, I still roll my eyes when I read this. Pakistan, a key mediator, has said talks would resume tomorrow between the U.S. and Iran on the terms of the interim deal. Talks include arrangements around the strait, the removal of a U.S. naval blockade on Iranian ports, and sanctions on Iran. Two sides, again, are clock ticking on this 60-day agreement between them. And, oh, by the way, there's continued conflict in Lebanon with Israel firing on Hezbollah in Lebanon. I feel like it's rinse and repeat where we just laugh. What's going on? What are we doing? You're trying to get to some sort of a deal when one of the sides has zero interest in actually making a deal. They will say they're okay to making a deal, but they're not. And of course, that causes the president of the United States to jump in, and he usually says something that is kind of over the top, like this. We struck Iranian military surveillance infrastructure, communication systems, air defense sites, drone storage facilities, and mine layer capabilities. And we may be forced to militarily complete the job. And then the bombast, if that happens, the Islamic Republic of Iran will no longer exist. I think you know that, generally speaking, I am a fan of President Donald Trump. I'm wondering if it's time for him to retire that line. That Iran as a country will cease to exist. I don't know that that is possible in today's warfare environment. Lance, you and I guess it was last week, maybe it was the week before last, we're kind of texting back and forth a little bit. And it's not exactly the same, but the size, scope, and terrain of Iran is not entirely dissimilar to that of Afghanistan. where you got a lot of different places where people can hide out, and it's a pretty vast area. And the idea that we could just end things in Afghanistan has proven over and over, not just for the United States, but for Russia as well, it can't be done.
I agree.
Like, you can't obliterate them. Is that where we are with this?
I would have to believe so. The country itself, Iran, very, very rough, rugged country, a lot of different geographies. You got the desert, you got the mountains, you got ice and snow on those peaks. You got big cities, 90-plus million people living across about 4 of them. You got about 20 or 30 million. So the people are fairly spread out outside of the larger cities as well. I think it would be almost impossible to take the country over. And I know it'd be impossible to bomb them into submission to the point where their leadership and their government just says, hey, we give up. We're not going to do this anymore. It has never happened where an air war, I recall, has ever actually done that. So you would have to have boots on the ground, significant boots on the ground, and Americans just do not have the appetite for that. I don't know if I'm seeing that wrong, but that's how I feel. So I don't believe in any way that America could just take over Iran. And then, two, what are you going to do with it when you take over? I mean, 90-something million people.
It does not have the, yes, you have the Strait, but it doesn't have like the global security strategic location that like Greenland does. I mean, at least when we were having the Greenland conversation about the United States militarily taking over Greenland, if that was going to be a thing, you understood that there was some strategic military significance to that. Yes, there is with the Strait, but I mean, it's half a world away. And there's been a little bit of pushback. There is an interesting political science concept that people are talking about a little bit more. And that's okay. The United States is the world peace. United States is the global ambassador. And there's a little more talk about actually let's let the United States kind of operate in the Western Hemisphere, be secure here, and then that Eastern Hemisphere can be China. It can be whatever else is going on there. I don't know that the global economy allows you to do that, and there certainly has been some pushback on J.D. Vance talking about that a little bit as well. We're back with you after this. Mornings with Richard Cross.
From the Venable Glass Track.
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, benefits, and payroll, you're not alone. That's where MWG Employer Services comes in. They can help you put together a plan, a full range of employer services solutions, and a custom plan that fits you. To learn more, give them a call, 601-206-7966, or go to MWGEmployerServices.com. Happy to welcome in our first guest this morning. Skip Scaggs is president of the Mississippi Automotive Manufacturers Association. Skip, good morning to you.
Good morning, Richard. Glad to be back with you again today, this morning.
Always a pleasure to have you. Let's start high level. My old tapping out.
Uh-oh. Get some intermittency.
Breaking up on me.
Yeah, hold tight, Skip.
There we go, Skip. I apologize. I think I'm back with you now. Had a little technical glitch there. High-level overview. What's going on right now with automotive manufacturers in Mississippi? What stands out for you?
High level from the automotive sector right now. Still trying to navigate the new world of tariffs, trying to maintain the highest quality vehicles and still manage the costs that are associated with tariffs. At the same time, we're celebrating good things that are happening in our industry. Nissan just produced its 1 millionth Frontier, a very popular Nissan truck produced there in Canton. Toyota up in Blue Springs is in the process of retooling to add a hybrid Corolla in addition to its internal combustion engine Corolla. So overall, we're hanging in there and doing well and just trying to plug forward.
Some of it has to do with a presidential change or at least a ideological shift with how the United States is going to rely on the petroleum industry. There was such this massive few years ago, the electric, all battery powered cars. And we saw mainstream American brands try to go down that road. They seem to have pulled back from that. Obviously, Tesla operates in a somewhat different space. But where are we in terms of a focus on electric, or is it more along along the lines of what you mentioned a second ago with Toyota, where hybrid is going, but maybe not as much all electric?
Yeah, I think, and MAMA had taken this stance early on, is we really believe that the market should dictate when and how fast a market should transition from, say, internal combustion to full electric. And then, the past administration certainly had a much more aggressive approach. They took that strong incentive proposal, and a lot of the traditional, the big three and others jumped on the bandwagon and really tried to take advantage of the governmental incentives to push us into a market that the consumer just wasn't ready for. I think we're going to get there. It's just going to be a longer timeline, and kind of the in between is that hybrid model. And I think Toyota bet well and played it right. They've done a tremendous job. So I think in time it's going to get here. But the market should dictate that and not government. And that's kind of been MAMA's stance and MAMA's approach. We're seeing it play out somewhat in our neighborhood. It's at Blue Oval City up in Tennessee. They've had some issues. That's a Ford plant. I know the Amplify project in North Mississippi has kind of tapped the brakes and done a little pause, but they are still proceeding. It's just at a much slower rate.
Hold tight, Skip.
Skip Scaggs is my guest. He is president of the Automotive Manufacturers Association. What about new construction for major automotive manufacturing facilities? Obviously, when Nissan came to Mississippi, it was such a incredibly huge thing at the time. Toyota came to Blue Springs in the Tupelo area. It was a massive win for economic development. I know there are lots of places that are engaged in economic development that like, hey, come put a manufacturing facility where. How actively is that going on? Has that slowed with manufacturers a little bit, or is it here in Mississippi?
I'll tell you, my day job is as an economic developer. I operate and manage the North Mississippi Industrial Development Association, so we're very attuned to the automotive industry, and it's one of the reasons I'm actively engaged with MAMA is the better ability I have to understand what's happening and how they operate. I'm a better salesman within that industry. So yes, there is still activity out there. It comes in ebbs and flows, and right now, there's a project that's been kicking around. I don't think I can say much more than that. But we do want it. It is a transformational type project. You saw what Nissan did. Just running the infrastructure, preparing that infrastructure for Nissan, really opened up the path from, say, Madison toward Canton, that Gluckstadt area. All of that infrastructure made a lot of that growth capable. And then, of course, the suppliers that come along, and those are additional jobs. So it's not just the direct jobs, it's the indirect jobs. It's what the infrastructure can bring with it that gets a lot of communities excited about what automotive manufacturing can bring to their region.
Hold tight, Skip. Got a little frozen job here, Skip. He'll be back with us in just a sec.
Yeah, I've got a bad connection.
Skip, what
Richard, you're in and out on me.
Skip, my apologies. I know, my apologies. It's me. It's not you. You mentioned the tariffs a second ago and how that continues challenge in terms of navigating the waters for from your perspective. Where do we sit today? What are manufacturers looking at? Is any of the pain being relieved?
It's my understanding that each of the automotive companies are working that individually, trying to work out their own supply chains. How are they managing their sourcing? None have, that I'm aware of, have brought it directly into the U.S. Their overseas production just yet. I know they do talk about it, but as far as I know, nobody's pulled that trigger. It's just a matter of, hey, wait and see. And that's one of the issues that they have, I think, with the current administration is you set the goalpost here, and then next week it's going to change. Kind of like the stock market, we don't like uncertainty. Set the goalpost, let it be what it is, but then quit changing it and let us operate. So a lot of companies are concerned about if they pull the trigger and move something and then the tariffs change the following month or the next quarter. Well, we've just deployed a high amount of capital that can't be returned. It's frustrating, but we're trying to manage it. From what I understand, they're managing it individually, company to company, and doing the best they can.
Yeah, and I guess that's all that can be done. Skip, I apologize for the technical issues this morning. Always appreciate your time. Hope we can get back to a cleaner conversation.
Look forward to that. Thank you again, Richard.
Skip Scaggs, president with the Mississippi Automotive Manufacturers Association. And what a frustrating MSP manufacturers. Been down in the tariff market and not being entirely sure how that's going to play out, trying to figure out where you deploy your resources. Hopefully we can get things sorted out during the break. We're going to take time out. Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We're back with you right after this.
So soon we'll burn without a noise, without my pride. I reach out from the
inside. From the Sea. No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Appreciate you joining the conversation today, and thankful for Skip Scaggs joining us as well. I know that was a little bit of a rocky conversation there. My apologies for that. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. And love to hear from you on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. Lance, I know that we're having some technical issues. If you need me, we shouldn't talk about this on the air, but if you need me to jump directly on the phone, if it's breaking up so much, then I can do that if we need to.
Well, we can just continue as is for now. If it continues to be intermittent, we'll have to just, switch horses mid-stride. It's kind of like riding that little kid horse with the springs on it when you get going real good and then the springs pop off, and everything's rolling and then you're on the floor. So, yeah, it's just one of those days. We'll get through it, though. Thanks for being patient, listeners. We greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, yep. I assure you that we will make the changes that are necessary between today and tomorrow to make sure that everything is back and is good with you. Reflecting pool drama rolls on. Have you seen the latest in this? I mean, this is one of those stories where you look and you're like, please go away. Please, can we just stop talking about this? You have arrests, you have allegations of vandalism. They're saying a 350-foot gash with a box cutter was put into the reflecting pool. It's still green, though the president claims that the algae is gone and it's just going to take a while. They have fenced off the area around the reflecting pool in D.C. ahead of this week's event. I guess it's possible, part of the plan, that they were going to do that all along. But what a disaster.
Yeah.
What an absolute disaster. Not in that this administration said, go ahead, Lance.
Oh, well, no, I'm just listening to you, yeah.
Well, and it's not even a disaster from the standpoint that, hey, this administration said we're going to try to fix the reflecting pool. They identified a problem. They were like, it is part of the centerpiece of Washington, D.C. that sits between the Washington Monument and the Lincoln Memorial. There are hundreds of thousands, if not millions of visitors that come through. This should look better than it does. But because the idea belonged to the president, Donald Trump, and his administration, you have a significant part of the population that's like, it's automatically bad. It's terrible. I can't believe he's painting this blue instead of gray. And it's just continued to spin out of control, and now something that should have been just really a non-issue. And there were people who said, well, the bid process that you used was not the right bid process to get a contractor in. Do you know how it works when you use government contractors on big jobs? Like just the acquisition process or the requisition process can take months, if not years. And they were trying to get this ready for America 250, for this big birthday party with an influx of visitors coming in for the Independence Day celebration, for the 4th of July celebration, for our nation's 250th birthday. And they said, hey, let's get this cleaned up. And clearly there have been some hiccups along the way, but it has not needed to be as bad as it is. Here's the thing, though. The cleanup and the focus on making Washington, D.C. more beautiful than it has been is not limited to the reflecting pool. And I'm not talking about the ballroom. I know people have their dander up about the ballroom and the way that process is going, and that's fine. And there are people that are super upset about a public golf course that Trump and his team have said, hey, we're going to renovate this. Now, Trump has, as he is prone to do sometimes, been fairly over the top with his predictions for this golf course renovation in Washington, D.C., saying, hey, it'll still be a public course. You can still play it. The general public can. But it's going to be so beautiful and so grand that it would be able to host a major championship, the U.S. Open or the PGA Championship at some point in the future. I don't know if that's possible or not. There are a lot of golf people that said that piece of land is too isolated to be able to do that it's not big enough for the infrastructure to host a major championship. Here's what I do know about the president. He's pretty good when it comes to development, and he's pretty good when it comes to golf courses. There are a lot of people that won't play his golf courses or golf tours, whether you're talking about in Europe with the R&A or in the United States, says, well, we're not playing tournaments on Trump's courses. They're too divisive. He's pretty good at building golf courses. He's pretty good at redesigning those, and his team is. So I don't know. But I'm not even talking about reflecting pool and golf courses. We're talking about the overall repair that is happening with monuments all over Washington, D.C. There was a post from Trump yesterday on Truth Social where he outlined some of what has been going on. But in total, 73 statues, monuments, and fountains have been revitalized while crime numbers in Washington, D.C. have plummeted. How is that not a win? How is that not a win? And I guess if you hate Donald Trump and everything that he does and everything that he stands for, then you're like, nope, he's desecrating our American capital city. But if they're going in and they're saying, hey, this area of fountains doesn't work, this water feature doesn't work, let's get the plumbers in, let's clean it up, let's get it functional again. Hey, this particular monument needs to be sandblasted or pressure washed. It's got mildew on it. Let's clean it up. And they've done that all over D.C. to the point that people are coming in and they're like, man, our capital city is gorgeous. This is the best it's ever looked, or the best it's looked in a really long time. Wow, I feel safe. I feel safe being out at night. I feel safe walking around in the daytime in a place that should feel safe. We kind of stay away from some of the mainstream media cliches that you hear, the Trump derangement syndrome and this, but I don't know what else to call it at this point. When people hate Donald Trump so much that everything that he does is bad man orange, that is evil, and there's no recognition that, Capital City looks better than it has in a long time. We feel safer than we have. And let's pull it out of D.C. for a second. Let's pull it closer to Mississippi. Not Mississippi proper, but just to the north of Mississippi. I've had a lot of conversations. Lance, you may have as well, based on, the places that you've lived and the people that you know. Memphis, Tennessee feels vastly different than it did 6 months ago. Talked to a lot of people that live in Mississippi. In fact, I had a conversation with an older gentleman not too terribly long ago. Said, my wife and I, for the first time in years, decided to go to the Orpheum. If you don't know the Orpheum, it's a beautiful theater in downtown Memphis. Probably 20 years ago, a major revitalization of the Orpheum. It was just a beautiful renovation. It was done well. But the Orpheum is not in an area of Memphis where for the last few years you've felt safe. It was not uncommon for you to get out of your car in a public parking lot or a paid parking lot, and as you were walking from your car to the Orpheum, you heard drag racing on the streets, you heard obnoxiously loud music, perhaps you heard gunfire. That happened on more than one occasion in and around the Orpheum. And this older gentleman said, we parked in the garage next to the Orpheum. We got there early enough that we could eat dinner. We walked from the Orpheum kind of toward the more downtown area, had dinner downtown. Security was everywhere. We walked back to the Orpheum, did a show in the theater that night, and went back to our car. And it's the safest I've felt in Memphis in decades, certainly in 10 years. That's a win. Maybe you didn't love the National Guard presence in some of the cities in the United States, but here's a news flash. Police presence deters crime. This morning's with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Venable Glass Traffic.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Welcome back. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi. Streaming at supertalk.fm and SuperTalk TV. Glad to have you along for what has been a bit of a bumpy ride this morning. My apologies to you. That is not your fault. It is my issue, and we are going to get that worked out. But we are going to continue to plug and persevere this morning. Some of your messages on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. 395. Using government funds to renovate public spaces sounds like socialism to me. How does that sound like socialism? And, like, what funds would you use to allocate to fix decaying public property? I'm not sure that I'm following. You may have to flesh that out a little bit more for me, if we can see about getting on the same page. Darren in Jackson says Trump don't do can't. He certainly is a hard driving leader in terms of his expectations, what he expects from his people. With regard to the safety, and I don't know if we broke up a little bit there at the end. Lance, we were talking about before the break about Memphis, and the difference in what it feels like there. I don't know if you've talked to people who were there. There was so much pushback with that task force that was put together. There has been a much heavier law enforcement presence in the city of Memphis, including with the National Guard, in recent months. And go figure, the people who live there, and this has nothing to do with skin color. This is white people, it's black people, it's brown people, it is young people, old people. They all feel more safe, and it's not just like, ooh, I feel in my inner feelings like I'm safer. You've got the crime statistics that back it up.
Yeah, well, I
There's
mean,
less violent crime in Memphis than there was 6 months ago.
Yeah, you're nailing it, man. I mean, if you look at the numbers just in Memphis, and this trend holds true in most major cities, over the last 5 or 6 years, you saw nothing but murder rates exponentially rise. Now, all of a sudden in 2024, 249 murders in Memphis, which was about 100 less than the year before in 2023, and then in 2025 down to 184. So you have seen since 2024, toward the end of it, you've seen a change, obviously, in the violent deaths that were, murders, as we would call those. Homicides are also down in Memphis. So you're not only sensing it, it is a real thing. And yes, the task force may have been unpopular, but the results are right there in front of you.
And like, which rings louder? You're like, I don't think you've got many people, though, despite the fact that it was framed as it's a government takeover, you're turning it into a police state. I don't think people feel like they've had a lot of violated civil rights. You have more people that have car tags that are current. You have less drag racing on downtown streets and on the interstates. And by the way, if you're on the interstate and you feel or see motorcycles or cars come flying by you at 110 miles an hour, it's unsettling. It's scary. And not to mention the fact that it's dangerous. But then violent crime is down. Carjackings are down. Shootings are down. Armed robberies are down. And gang violence is down. And when you say that those things were happening at level X, and now it is X minus 30% or X minus 40% or X minus 50%, you have significantly lessened the dangerous things that cause people to want to stay at home. So again, I mean, I'm not equating refinishing the reflecting pool with National Guard being deployed to dangerous cities with high crime rates. But again, it's one of those things where you look at it and you go, okay, is there really a problem with what is actually happening that is yielding results? Or is the problem whose idea it was? Is the problem this is a different way than we've done it before? It's not shocking that people don't like change, and they don't especially like change if the perception of infringing on civil rights is involved. But I don't know that that has happened. What I do know is that Memphis is safer and Chicago is safer. There was some talk about whether or not the National Guard should come to Jackson for a little while, and Jackson city leaders kind of pushed back on that idea and said, no, we don't want that. We don't. And then we had a story in the 6 o'clock hour. Now, I'm not saying these things are 1 + 1 = 2, but we did have a story in the 6 o'clock hour when we were going through our news headlines this morning that Jackson is on trajectory to have a higher homicide rate than it had a year ago. Maybe it wouldn't have been the worst thing in Jackson. 8 o'clock hours on the way after this.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour on this Monday morning, June 29th. Thank you for joining us. It is Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Find them online at communitybank.net. Notice how some places still know your name? At Community Bank, that's how banking works. We're a bank that knows community because we live here. When you walk in, you're more than an account number. No matter what your banking needs are, here you will talk to real people who care about your goals. Community Bank, a local bank built on relationships. Stop by your neighborhood location or learn more at communitybank.net. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Appreciate you being with us this morning. The Neshoba County Fair is in the books. And if you were there, and you had thoughts about the fair, I'd love to hear from you on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. That's the number. Again, 601-879-4395. The one plan from C Spire is here. Fiber, home, internet, and wireless. Only $99 a month for new and current C Spire customers. One plan, one price, one experience with zero compromises. You can save over $700 a year with 3 phone lines from C Spire compared to AT&T. Plus, with 5-year price lock, you pay one rate with no surprises guaranteed. So don't wait. Get the one plan today. Visit your local C Spire store or shop online now at cspire.com/one-plan. C Spire, customer inspired. So like I said, if you were at the fair last week, and you had thoughts, you listened to the political speeches, and you had thoughts from what you heard, let us know when you were sitting on a front porch or a back porch, or you were walking over to the Midway, and you were having a conversation with somebody. What stood out? What was driving that conversation? I've gone through and kind of thought back through my couple of days there, and some of the people that I talked to, some of the things that I saw, some of the things that I heard, and tried to kind of put together a running list. And, you know, we can call this musings from the fair, or rumors from Neshoba, or, you know, water cooler buzz, or whatever you feel. However you want to describe it, we can do that. Let's walk through some of that. And I think we start at the top. Governor Tate Reeves spoke on Thursday morning, and it was his next to last political speech at the Neshoba County Fair. 8 years as state treasurer, 8 years as lieutenant governor, and now this year and one more remaining in his 2 terms for 8 years as governor. And Tate Reeves is and should be extremely proud of what he's done, what he's accomplished. There's no doubt about that. The economic development wins for Mississippi are massive. $85 billion in private development into the state during his time, 6.5 years as governor to this point. Those numbers are staggering. They're mind-boggling. They're hard for you to, or maybe I should just say hard for me to what that really means. But it's meant a lot of jobs. And yes, I know there aren't that many jobs that go along with data centers, but have any of the data centers been full projects completed yet? The answer to that is no. I mean, you may have pockets where they're done. But the point I'm making there is the construction jobs that are ongoing while data centers are being built are massive. Some of those are outside workers that are coming in. A lot of those are people that are in the construction fields in Mississippi. And as we talked with our friends at Build Mississippi last week, and we've talked with Accelerate, and we've talked around workforce development, there are opportunities within the construction fields due to the economic development that's happening in the state. And it's going to be that way for decades to come. If you assume, and one of the things that Tate Reeves pointed out in his speech at the Neshoba County Fair was that whoever the next governor is needs to pick up the torch and continue the momentum that Mississippi has built in terms of getting these projects up and off the ground. And if you believe that is going to continue with whoever the next governor or governors are in Mississippi, then it lets you know that the construction jobs are not going away. That is the nature of construction jobs. You work for a company, you own a company, you bid on a project, you go in, you build it out, you finish it, and then you move on to the next one. And so the idea that all of these construction jobs are going to come in, but they're temporary and they're going to go away after a few years, it's a little overblown, especially if you continue down this road of economic development. So as I said, Tate Reeves, very proud of what he has accomplished, but he's also very happy to tell you about that. If you want to call that arrogance, you can. If you want to just call it telling the truth and stating the facts, you can call it that as well. Tate Reeves said, this was the direct quote from his speech about the future. He did not endorse either of the 2 candidates who are currently named in the governor's race. Of course, Ag Commissioner Andy Gibson and former House Speaker Philip Gunn. But he said that his successor would best benefit Mississippi if he or she picked up the proverbial torch and continued following the path of conservative governance outlined over the past 6+ years. His direct quote was, "What happens during next year's statewide elections will have a huge impact on the future of this state that we all love. Elections are not just about television ads, campaign slogans, or who can nail their sign highest on a poll. Elections are about choices, and we all need to remember that choices have consequences. Elections determine whether a state moves forward or falls back." Parenthetically, most of the signs, most of the polls at the Neshoba County Fair that had signs on them at the top was Michael Watson's sign. He's not running for governor; he's running for lieutenant governor. But just for whatever that's worth, that's kind of how it played out. So, was that a shot at the likely future lieutenant governor? I don't know. I don't know if it was or not, but I can't help but wonder if that's how Michael Watson viewed it. He went to Facebook over the weekend and took a link to an article that was written on SuperTalk Mississippi, and the headline was the one that I'm referencing now, where Tate Reeves said, "It can be lost. Reeves contends progress will stop if wrong governor is elected in 2027." And so in response to that, the lieutenant governor posted this, or excuse me, I beg your pardon. The Secretary of State who is running for lieutenant governor, Michael Watson, posted this. Mississippi has yet to see her best days. Imagine a governor, lieutenant governor, and Speaker of the House who actually talk and work together for the good of the state. While forward progress can be lost, it can also be so much better. Two things can be true at once, right?
Yeah.
You can point to the successes of the Reeves administration. You can point to the wild growth on the economic development front. You can point to what the legislature has accomplished in terms of eliminating the state income tax over the course of the next decade and some of their other big wins, and still recognize that, and they're doing this while dysfunctional relationships are in place. We've talked about it. I don't know that many elected officials have spoken about it as openly as the Secretary of State did in this Facebook post. But the truth of the matter is, the House and the Senate do not get along in the Mississippi legislature in terms of leadership. Now, there is a level of respect that exists there. A level. It's not unwavering respect. But philosophically, when you really drill down into the details, there are lots and lots of disagreements between the lieutenant governor and the Speaker of the House. Governor Tate Reeves is as gifted a politician as has existed in Mississippi, period. Look at his record. He has won and won and won, never lost an election. The number of friends that he has made along the way is small. I'm not talking about friends that are voters or friends and people. I'm talking about friends within the political world. He is, it's not just sharp elbows. It is long memory and steamroll, and this is what I want, and we're going to do whatever it takes to get to what I want, because that's what I believe is best for the state of Mississippi. We'll pick this conversation up on the other side of the break. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, back after this.
Good morning from the Better
Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Back with you, Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. If you are just tuning in this morning and you say, hey, it sounds different, just bear with us. We will, I think, be back to normal tomorrow. Hopefully, we will be back to normal tomorrow, but we've had to kind of piece it together because of a snafu that I made. Nobody else's fault. This is 100% on me. But maybe it sounds like radio used to sound like a long time ago when we didn't have crystal clear audio all the time.
Yeah, and then they spoke real fast, too. Like, hey, how you doing over there? Yeah, the weather over here and the weather over there.
Yeah. Well, I'll try to talk slowly.
No, it's awesome.
Yeah. In the north, we got showers and thunderstorms on the way now. Does not appear to have showers and thunderstorms on the way today. It's going to be hot, and it's going to be sunny across the entire state of Mississippi. Probably need to take some precautions. Talked about that earlier in the show today. Don't let yourself get overheated. But no, we had kind of reflections on the Neshoba County Fair, some of the conversations that were going on, and some thoughts that I had kind of wrapping our coverage up there. It was 2 great days. Really enjoyed being there, and all the guests that came by and talked with us. We had conversations with guests from both sides of the aisle. But in terms of Tate Reeves' leadership style, it is a my way or the highway leadership style. I said before the break, Tate Reeves has not made a lot of friends along the way, and I'm talking about political friends. Now, you have people who are allied to him who are very, very loyal to the governor. But if you don't fall into that category, then there are a lot of people that really, really don't like Tate Reeves. You know, whether it's personality or political ideology or political philosophy or how he goes about things, whatever that may be, there are a lot of people that do not like Tate Reeves. And to use a sports example, it's fine if that's the way you operate, but you better win. And in the case of the governor, he has won and won and won and won. And that is why he has been able to be effective. He has ruled with an iron fist. He did so in his time as the president of the Senate, as lieutenant governor, and largely has done so as governor. He also is very centered on what he believes. He believes in true conservative politics and economic development, and that is what he has lived on for the last 6.5 years. It's what he's going to live on for the last year and a half. And when his time in office is done, we'll see what happens next for Tate Reeves. But as we look to the future, what about those candidates that either we know about or have been rumored that are going to be part of the gubernatorial race? So you had Andy Gibson, who with us on Thursday morning, on Mornings with Richard Cross, guaranteed a win. He said, "We are going to win. I am going to be the next governor." And a lot of his statements were couched in, "When I am governor, this is what we are going to do." What do we know about Andy Gibson? We know that he's got a new album out that you can get, his God Bless America album. We know that he has a strong faith and loves, and he absolutely espoused that when he was standing in the pavilion at the podium there in Founders Square on Thursday, and did so loudly. We know that he is incredibly patriotic and talked over and over and over about being in the greatest state in the United States and the greatest country in the history of the world. And we know that if politics, for some reason, does not ultimately work out for Andy Gibson, he can be a fine preacher. There is no doubt about that is an option for Andy Gibson going forward. It was interesting to me when we visited with him, hearing him talk about part of his economic plan going forward. And he said, yes, we do need to continue economic development. He is no fan of artificial intelligence. I will say, like, he recognizes, data centers and their role, but he's talked about artificial intelligence and too much reliance on that. Toothpaste is out of the tube. Like, there's no putting the AI toothpaste back in the tube. So you better figure out a way to embrace it and leverage that for good, because there's no going back on AI. It's everywhere we turn. And yes, that's a lot of why these data centers are being built at the pace they are, is to create the compute power to drive the AI engines that are there. The mood while Andy Gibson was speaking at the Neshoba County Fair was interesting. He had some of his supporters that were sitting under the pavilion and waving signs and cheering for everything that he said. But I'm just being candid with you. On the periphery of the pavilion, as you walked around, and I did this while he was talking, there were a lot of eye rolls. There are a lot of people that are like, this style is just not for me. It's over the top. It's too much, whether it's the banging of the podium or the big loud voice or the Bible in his hand while he's giving a political speech or whatever. I just don't like that. But I had somebody that said to me, said my dad used to tell me what this particular person, in this case Andy Gibson, is saying may not appeal to you and it may not appeal to me. But what does the person at Walmart in Newton think? Without question, Andy Gibson has a base of voters who will follow him anywhere he goes. and his style plays to a lot of Mississippi. Philip Gunn is the other candidate who is announced for governor. He sat with us. I was thinking back through our conversation with Philip Gunn, and there were a couple of things that he really harped on. The biggest of which is he is ready to roll on day one because of his experience. He said, I'm not a career politician. I'm not a country club politician. He did serve 20 years in the House, so he is not currently in politics. He stepped aside from his role as Speaker of the House, 5.5, 6.5 years ago, whatever the exact timeline is. But couching yourself as not a career politician when you spent 20 years in the legislature and you're trying to get to the governor's mansion, it rings a little hollow to me, but we can set that aside. There is no doubt he's not going to need a map to figure out how to get to the Capitol if he work his way around the Capitol if he is elected governor in Mississippi. But he said something that stuck with me, and he said, and I think this was directed at Tommy Duff as potentially a candidate for governor in Mississippi. People talk about, business experience. He said, we're talking about running government. That's not a business. I would push back on that a little bit. Mississippi has a budget of a little over $7 billion a year. You better run it like it's a business. You absolutely better run it like it's a business. And there are some difficult days ahead for Mississippi in terms of financial decisions that are going to have to be made as some of the windfall of federal money that has come into the state over the last 6-7 years dries up, and there's not as much coming in. And you better have sound business principles in terms of running the state. Now, I think the point was more that he was making was more about familiarity with how government operates and how you have to navigate that. And if you don't have inside experience, then there's a learning curve that's there. A couple of other things that stood out. Scott Cologne, when he was on with us, Cindy Hyde-Smith, he said that could be an ugly race, could be a spicy race down the stretch. I'm not so sure that's not going to be one-side ugliness. I think Cindy Hyde-Smith is content to stand on her record, even though Scott Cologne wants to try and punch holes in it. Yeah, he pointed out, he's like, she's never anywhere. What he failed to mention was the fact that she actually had been at the fair, in the Neshoba County Fair, the previous weekend, had to be back in D.C. because of votes that were happening, and she spent 4 hours in the rain and the mud on the Saturday prior to when he was there on Wednesday, talking to voters, talking to people who were at the fair, and that's a little bit different. I don't think she was wearing white sneakers with a suit while she was there, but that's just a guess. Tommy Duff made a low-key appearance there. His future is the biggest remaining question mark in the race for governor. Daniel Sparks and Nick Bain were there. Both of them are running for state auditor. They were kind of campaigning, kind of just visiting and being kind of visually present. Saw Whitney Lipscomb was there. No announcement from her, but she's expected to run for Secretary of State. And a couple of other thoughts that we'll get to as well. Caleb Sailors from the SuperTalk Mississippi News Team will join us coming up next to talk about what's going on in the world of news in Mississippi this week and looking back at last week as well. It's Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. Thanks for joining us. Ceasefire text line is open, 601-879-4395. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seaboard Day Right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Welcome in once again. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. Caleb Sailors joins us now, a multimedia journalist with the SuperTalk Mississippi News Team. We're going to get to Caleb in just a second. I want to drop these last couple of points in terms of observations from the Neshoba County Fair, just from the list that I had. we're kind of talking through some of the different offices. Obviously, governor is grabbing the most attention. Attorney General. This is one that nobody is talking about, and nobody has announced that they are running for Attorney General yet, and it's because we have a current Attorney General who everyone expects is going to announce that she is making a run for governor, talking about Lynn Fitch. But until that happens, you're not going to see any movement in terms of announcements. There are a couple of names that are bouncing around and seem to be popping up in terms of might run for Attorney General if indeed Lynn Fitch moves on. One of those is Sean Tyndall, currently the head of DPS. Another is Aaron Rice from the Jackson area. I had a chance to meet him over the weekend at Neshoba as well. And then it leaves the big question of, what about the current state auditor? We know that Chad White is not running for auditor again. Is he going to run for governor? He chooses not to run for governor. Might he jump into the lieutenant governor race? Hearing a lot of people suggest that. That would be certainly an interesting battle in a Republican primary with Michael Watson. Might he jump into the race for attorney general, given the fact that he does have a law degree? We don't know. And Chad White was not at the Neshoba County Fair. He is currently not deployed, but he's doing his summer National Guard duty responsibilities. So that just kind of wraps that up in what we were talking about. Caleb, you spent some time at the fair last week. Appreciate you jumping in place of JT this morning. Did you have a big takeaway from the Neshoba County Fair?
Not really this year, Richard. I think everybody's eyes are getting ready for next year when we're going to have, enough speakers to probably last the entire day to get us from like the political speaking portion to the concert. So we'll have Lieutenant Governor Delbert Hoseman giving his last speech as Lieutenant Governor, then Trace Adkins performing on the main stage probably next year. But no, I guess one of my takeaways was that the challengers at the one seeking Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith's seat and then the one seeking Michael Guest's seat here in Congress had unfettered access to the crowd. So that was one of my takeaways, is that, well, the incumbents weren't there to defend themselves or defend their records. They sent us SuperTalk Mississippi News statements individually, but they weren't there to give stump speeches. And so their opponents pretty much had unfettered access. I mean, Scott Colomb was able to call Cindy Hyde-Smith corrupt with the senator not being able to defend herself and defend her record there.
Yeah. One of the things I mentioned a second ago, and did not find this out until after our interview with Scott Colomb, was that Cindy Hyde-Smith had been at the Neshoba County Fair the weekend prior. So she did have the opportunity to visit with fairgoers, to visit with her voters and her base. She just didn't have the opportunity to stand at the podium under the pavilion in the middle of Founders Square with all those TV cameras and reporters there to take down every word that she said. So there was some presence there with Cindy Hyde-Smith, even though she wasn't there Wednesday, Thursday for the political speeches last week. Right.
She was able to talk to prospective voters and go from cabin to cabin, maybe have a porch swing conversation or three. But, yeah, she wasn't behind the podium there at Founders Square.
Yeah. Forgive me for this because it feels like tooting our own horn a little bit. You were on the coast this past weekend for the Mississippi Press Association Awards. And when I say tooting our own horn, I'll just toot the horn of the newsroom, of which you are a part. You guys do an outstanding job covering all the things that are happening in Mississippi, and got a little hardware to recognize some of that work.
Yeah, we did. And the biggest award we got was, this is a team effort. I mean, Richard, you're involved in this as well. The Community Service Award, which went to the hard work and the dedication we have to Palmer Home for Children, which, is a cause that everybody should champion, and one that I'm proud that we champion here at SuperTalk Mississippi. We got the first place Community Service Award. They recognized the work we're doing to help underserved children in Mississippi, those who desperately need care and attention, in the role we play in helping Palmer Home, do that, be a public service in Mississippi. So that was the biggest award we won. Now, JT Mitchell, my news director, myself, even Ben Milam, who no longer works with us now, but we love him and wish him well in his endeavors. And then Blake Harrell, who shoots some photography for us, got an award for a sports photograph. We got individual awards here and there, which was really neat to see. JT's name pop up on the screen, my name pop up on the screen, Ricky Matthews' name pop up on the screen, and see us also competing against, some of the big dogs in Mississippi journalism. So it was really not just neat to be there, but it was very validating for the work we do in and out.
Yeah, certainly. So the picture that Blake Carroll took of the Mississippi State wide receiver hurdling a Tennessee defensive back in Neyland Stadium was absolutely one for the ages. Really, really good stuff there. On the news front, awful story out of Jackson, the triple homicide that happened on Saturday night. The subsequent comments from John Horn about engaging and making sure that law enforcement, city leaders, community groups are all on the same page and are all working toward trying to eradicate what has been a flurry of gun violence, a homicide rate that is on pace to surpass what last year's number was, which was the lowest since 2019.
Right. Jackson had 75 homicides this past year, 2025. First time that the city had gotten underneath the 100 mark since 2019, and or whatever year it was, since 2021 rather. And the trend was going in the right direction, right? Homicides were on the decline in the city of Jackson, and then boom, now we're at 41 this calendar year, and we're not even halfway into the year yet. So we're well on pace to surpass, the 75 from last year. And then with the latest 3 homicides being part of a triple homicide, the mayor noted that there was a trend that's happening in the city of Jackson right now that's pretty troubling. The opening to his statement is, our city is broken right now. Like, our hearts are broken for this city. We're really struggling right now. And so, yeah, Mayor John Horn has made it a concerted effort on his end to get with leaders, the police chief, Rochelle Brackney, who was recently minted not long ago, and then other community leaders, other public safety officials, pastors, community advocates and activists, and then even people whose families have been victims of these types of crimes, to come to the table and say, hey, what do we do? How do we tackle this problem head on? So one thing that makes Jackson unique than some of the other bigger cities that have crime problems is a lot of the homicides in Jackson, Richard, the overwhelming majority of them are domestic in nature. And I remember former police chief Joseph Wade talking to me about this, saying, it's kind of difficult, the position we're in law enforcement. I can't walk in somebody's house and just arrest them preemptively. We know where the crime is. The Jackson Police Department's clearance rate's 85%. I mean, it's rivaling some of the best in the country. I mean, they're making arrests for these crimes, for these shootings. The problem is they can't just knock on the door and say, hey, put your hand behind your back. We know you're about to shoot somebody. And so they're trying to tackle this from the roots. How do we get youth out of gangs? How do we get youth in recreational opportunities? Them, playing sports, throwing a football around, playing basketball, being around good mentors for the summer instead of getting in the bad crowds.
Not a lot of information in terms of leads on this. Any further developments since Saturday when this was reported?
No, and the worst part of this, Richard, is that one of the victims of the shooting. Now all the victims, it's sad and heartbreaking, but one was 2 years old.
Yeah.
One was a toddler, and no arrests have been made at this point. I'm hopeful that an arrest will be made now. Police did recover a vehicle that was believed to be stolen at the crime scene that was later found at a different location in Jackson. So that is a lead for law enforcement. But as of now, they don't have any names of any arrests, no arrests announced at this point.
Tough news out of Forest County from yesterday with a sheriff's investigator that has died after a motorcycle crash.
Yeah, Andretta English is the investigator for the Forest County Sheriff's Department, who was killed in a crash Saturday afternoon. She was driving a motorcycle along Highway 589 when she collided with a Chevy Silverado, and then ultimately succumbed to her injuries there. Very, very sad situation. I know the governor issued a statement that his condolences are with her and the Forest County Sheriff's Department and all law enforcement in Mississippi at this time. But, we even had another incident, Richard, where in Richland, and Richland police officer was struck by a vehicle while participating in a benefit ride for Deputy Yates Rodney, the Covington County deputy, who, of course, was shot a couple of weeks ago by a pair of brothers that, apparently did not want to yield to a traffic stop. And so another incident where, these weren't sinister in nature. I mean, accidents happen, but it's just devastating that it happened, to our men and women in service.
Yeah. No doubt about that. Caleb Saylor's multimedia journalist with the SuperTalk Mississippi News team. He'll hang with us through the break. Let's touch on Senatobia when we get back. That is a story that is not only driving local attention but national attention as well. It appears as if things have somewhat remained under control. There was some concern about what this past weekend might look like and what the life cycle of some of the protests and rallies was going to be in terms of the story out of Senatobia from a week or so ago. We'll wrap things up with you with Caleb Saylor's coming up next on the other side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community.
From the Venable Glass Tree.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Back with you one last time on this Monday morning, the 29th of June. Caleb Saylor is joining me from the SuperTalk Mississippi Media News team. And Caleb, one of the stories that we've been following for the last week or so is the death of 1-year-old Cohen Wiley, an officer-involved shooting in the Walmart parking lot in Senatobia. And the funeral was yesterday. Maybe it was on Saturday. And on Friday, there was a community march with about 100 protesters who were there marching, and then kind of a community rally on Friday night as well. By all accounts, this was a mostly or fairly peaceful demonstration. Obviously, this is a tinderbox of a situation where emotions are running high, but it does not, to this point, have the look of Ferguson, Missouri, for example, from a few years ago.
No, and neither St. Louis or even some of the outskirts of Detroit after 2020. No. This was, by all accounts, it looked peaceful. Even earlier on, after Cohen's death, we had an incident at the Walmart in Senatobia where police were having to deploy tear gas. I mean, we didn't have anything like that happening this past weekend. By all accounts, it looked like everything was peaceful and people, voiced their concerns, voiced their displeasure with law enforcement or whatever it was without resorting to any kind of violent outbreak, which is what we want to see, obviously.
At the Neshoba County Fair, it was at least a small topic of conversation, and my understanding is that the investigation is very much ongoing. There are a lot of people who go, well, why can't this happen faster? But there are kind of multiple elements to the investigation. You have the shoplifting charge that is there. You have the officer-involved shooting. When you have a vehicle that is moving toward a police officer in a threatening manner, that vehicle is considered a deadly weapon. And so we're having to do a lot of waiting to see, and that doesn't sit well with a lot of people who want answers, and they want answers and justice now.
Yeah, in the era of instant gratification, Richard, where I can go to ChatGPT and get a picture made on the spot, it's hard for people to be patient. And anything relating to our legal system requires a lot of patience and time. And you're right. I mean, this is a multifaceted investigation. You got to look at, was the lethal force that the officer used, was it justified? That's what the attorneys are going to look at, of course. That's what the Attorney General's office is going to look at. Investigators have to look at, well, was the person accused of shoplifting actually driving toward police in a malicious manner? What was there a shoplifting that happened? I mean, like you said, there's a lot that goes into this. They have to look at this from all fronts, and then the investigators, they do their investigation, and then they turn their information over to the Attorney General's office, who then reviews it and then says, okay, where do we go from here? And so, yeah, I mean, this doesn't just happen. We're only 2 weeks out from this. I mean, I understand people want answers immediately. I understand people want videos released to the public immediately. But there's a reason this stuff isn't. There's a reason a lot of this sensitive information is withheld for a moment, so that way everything can be reviewed before stuff gets selectively edited and thrown on the internet, where people can form their own narratives and paint things in the picture that they want. The officials are going to want this to be clear and concise whenever this inevitably either goes to court, or this results in handcuffs on somebody, or this results in an officer potentially being cleared.
So we will wait, and we will try to be patient as this investigation proceeds. Only a minute or so left. Caleb, this is the time of year where a lot of people are traveling, a lot of people are taking vacation time, which sometimes leads to a little bit of slower time from a news standpoint. What are you guys keeping an eye on this week in the SuperTalk Mississippi newsroom?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, whatever comes our way, we'll keep an eye on everything happening in Mississippi. The situation in Jackson, I'm really eager to see how, officials come together to kind of tackle what has been an outbreak of homicides in the city. And then we've got a lot of America 250 celebrations happening this week, going into this weekend as we celebrate Independence Day. So you will have everybody posted, whether it be on air or online, about all the big 4th of July celebrations as the United States celebrates 250 years.
I was traveling on Saturday and noticed in Mississippi and in Alabama and into Florida a little bit more visible law enforcement presence. So if you are on the roads this week, be careful. A lot of traffic out there and a lot of law enforcement presence as well. Caleb, as always, thanks for your time. Good catching up this morning.
Thank you, Richard. I appreciate it.
Lance, appreciate you not strangling me through the radio line as our issues kind of went up and down, but we made it through this morning, and hopefully we'll be back to normal tomorrow.
Man, you just got to hold on tight sometimes. A horse a buck, Just don't want to get thrown off.
Buck sometimes. Glad to be with you today. Thanks again for joining us, for all of your messages on the C Spire text line. A reminder that Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We're back with you tomorrow morning just after 6 o'clock for Lance Tolbert. And our guest this morning, I'm Richard Cross. Have a great Monday.
I got to be moving out of here. I might go out to California. I might go down to Georgia. I might stay here.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.